Yeah, it's 7 o'clock. It's Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. We're starting on time, which is good because Gabe was running a little late tonight, but he got here. He's got the stuff working. I found these two guys in my parking lot. The one and only Johnny Campbell. And it's funny because between the two of us, we have 11 Baja 1000 victories. And usually when somebody says something like that, they're like tooting their own horn. And of course I am, because that's what I do on this show. This one time I actually helped him.
And this one time?
Yeah. The one time?
Yeah,
that one time. So I have a 1X.
You actually helped me twice, but one time
it didn't work.
It didn't work.
Yeah, the bike was too slow.
It was definitely
actually
too slow.
It wasn't too slow. It was the fact that it didn't run to the potential of a stock XR 600.
Yeah.
So that's what we raced the second time, which I thought was better.
It's like an XR. It was like an XR 250.
At least a 250.
But
It might have been a 300, XR 300. It's kind of like that new CRF, the CRF 300 two-stroke that's coming out that you were just talking to Race and Jason about.
Yeah, the thing's it's pretty pipey.
Yeah. So, hey, everybody, thanks for joining in. If you're watching live on the Facebooks right now, we have the chat room going. It's got a few people in there tonight. Wow. See, Johnny comes on and it instantly goes over 50. So, George, I'd like you to pay attention to that, like right away, over 50. I think he's ranking in as our number one co-host because I don't like having guests on the show more than once. That's why we've got this other dude sitting on the couch. I think he wants to sit on the couch right now, but we might call him in later because everybody's going to want to ask him questions once they figure out who it is, but they already guessed in the forum, so.
He's been busy.
He's been busy. Busy. He's got projects going on. We all do. We all have kind of projects, side projects going on. Gabe, thanks again for in this time of no pay. The good thing is I can't hand Gabe a check, so that means he's not going to disappear again. Because the aliens brought him back, and instantly he came over to my house and asked me for a check. So, yeah, and then whenever I give him a check, he disappears again because that's gas in the tank, and he rolls. So that's how we do it here in Pahrump. We try to get out of here. So good times all around. And we have Al. Al's one of our local riders out here. Decided to come by and check out the show again. It must be really boring here in Pahrump if Al's over here.
Return customer.
And later on, we might have my bartender might show up because I screwed up and didn't order tacos, and she seems to know where we get them. So Janie might be here in a little while. But thanks, everybody, for joining in. We're going to answer your questions. We're going to talk about motorcycles and motorcycle-related products. In between talking about myself, Johnny will interrupt me and we'll answer the questions, right?
Maybe correct him because he's getting kind of old and feeble, but he was kind of busy today too. So.
I was busy. We got a lot of stuff we doing that, we're gonna go riding. I'm super excited actually. I'm ready to go riding.
It's the only way to do social distancing. You're riding. You don't need a partner. You could stay easily 2 meters apart, no problem.
Right, and we're in the meters. We're back in meters and kilometers in our world. Right.
You noticed I went metric on you.
Yeah, so good. So if you guys have any questions, go ahead and put them up on the chat room. We'll go ahead and get to those. I think. I know what I wanted to do. I wanted to thank the people that kind of help me out being able to do this. I was so close to announcing the big one today. It was really close. I was going to actually, if I would have announced this time, I would have kicked Johnny. Johnny would not have been on this show because it wasn't Honda. I'll just say that. DDC. So ddcracing.net. They make these really nice, sweet sprockets that make my factory KTMs go really fast when I'm chasing Ricky Bray back out in the desert. And they're also on my Husaberg, which we're not going to talk about. Right? They were not the reason that my Husaberg did not provide a good, it was half of a day, right?
That's not a half day. And
that was a quarter of a day?
What we consider. Maybe a quarter.
Maybe a quarter day. Yeah. So just enough to, yeah. DDCRacing.net, they make Delaney drive components, make really good lightweight sprockets. Johnny, what kind of sprockets do you guys use?
We use Rinthal sprockets. You know, I've kind of added it up. We've been with Rinthal sprockets for like 27 years.
Yeah.
Pretty good run.
That's good. Yeah. So lots of good choices out there. And I'll talk about everything, even if you do sponsor the show. So that's why nobody sponsors the show, because I'll talk about everything, because I think it's all good. Also Climb. I wear Climb gear. I am wearing Climb underwear right now. So I just thought that was important to tell everybody. It's if you want to, in my opinion, have the best functioning off-road gear, I like Climb. What do you like, Johnny?
That's a TMI as far as the underwear is concerned.
I'll show you.
But
most people listen to this as a podcast, so the Facebook audience would no, we're not going to do that.
Yeah. Well, I wear Fly. It's been my choice for the last several years, and they do a really great job as well. And they're definitely a battle against your company.
Yeah. Well, do you have like JCR Fly stuff, right? There's
we actually did for a while, but they decided to kind of cut all the signature products, because even like Shorty and
Andrew doesn't have a custom helmet.
No.
You know, I'm gonna try to get a custom helmet from him.
Trey and those guys had replica helmets, signature helmets and stuff, and so they decided to do away with that. It just didn't work very good, especially end of season. So good thing is we still have a hand in developing the product and stuff, and they've been really good to all three of us. So
yeah, cool. I wear Fly when I moto a lot of times, because they've helped us out at dirt bike tests before in the past, and they make good stuff. So I like it too. So actually, I like all the stuff. That's why we talk about it, right?
That's right.
Hey, my mom, not my mom, like my mom, my wife.
There hasn't even been tequila yet.
No, it's like, my wife joined in, so now I have to be careful. I have to watch what I say, right? And another thing is, so the other day, in my Husaberg issues, I used to, when I'm confused about something or when I have a problem, I reach out to people that I trust, because even, Jimmy Lewis, this guy that seems like he knows everything, or at least acts like he knows everything. I have to reach out to experts on different things. And so when I had this electrical issue that we're hopefully not going to really dive too deep into, I will though. I asked my experts, and since it was a Husaberg thing, there's a company called CycleBuy.com. And when kind of Husaberg was in the transition of, is it a KTM brand? Is it not a KTM brand? Even when it was a KTM brand before Husky kind of came in, Bob at CycleBuy was kind of the go-to guy for me to get my Husaberg parts, especially the ones that were kind of hard to locate, because this was maybe before the fishes were all on the internets, especially Husaberg ones. And, you'd have to use the parts menu to order things, and it was hard to find a Husaberg dealer, and most KTM dealers didn't know that they could get Husaberg parts, on and on. But Bob at CycleBuy he always knew his stuff, and he had the stuff in stock, and he helped me out. And so the other day I was just checking in, because there was a part that had been superseded, or maybe not, we didn't know. And so I called him and asked him about it, and he knew about it, and he showed me 3 or 4 different ways to check this kind of stuff, which was super cool. And he's kind of out of the OEM parts business for, the way he was before. He used to be a KTM Husaberg Husky dealer. He's kind of out of that now, just because times are changing. But man, what a good guy. So they still do a lot of accessory stuff. They're pretty popular up in Southern Oregon. And if you are, just checking stuff out, he's a super knowledgeable guy and a good company, especially if you're in that area. I really enjoy recommending people like that, guys that have been in the industry for a long time. They know their stuff, they use what they sell, they understand it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So comes with high recommendations for me. So, and thanks, Bob, for taking the time to teach me lots of stuff like that. I thought that was cool. So I didn't call Johnny and ask him, because it was a Husaberg. He just got to watch my demise the entire day.
Hey, yeah, we already had a plan. Kendall and I had a plan for that thing before we.
Did it involve fire and matches?
Yes.
Yeah, she's Kendall. Of all the people in the world that would love to see my Husaberg just go up in flames, me and a Husaberg go up in flames, maybe it would be Kendall. And tacos arrived. Hi, Janie.
It was funny. We just had that image of like on any Sunday when the guy built
lighting
his
bike on fire.
Oh my gosh, it was.
Jeez.
It would have been so good.
Well, it's funny because remember when you used to send Kendall to go riding with me back when you were bringing him up and everything, and I knew him because I used to race with his dad, and I remember when Kendall was just a kid on a little Z50 putting around at the pits, but. So there we are, we're out riding, and every once in a while I would have a Husaberg, and we talked about it because it was the old 650. It was the Dirt Rider long-term 650 that we had, and it just pickled him that I kept bringing this bike that wasn't like a Honda. And he's like, why do you ride that thing? And it's, because other times I might show up and I'd be on a Cannondale and maybe a gas or some of these. I was on these freak of nature bikes, and I always rode them because I like learning what those things do. It's interesting, and some of them have some really redeeming coils, and others are steaming piles. So, but he used to get pickled all the time, and it's funny because he's like, why do you ride that thing? And then now there's the one time, I talk it up all the time, and the one time it starts letting me down, and man, of all the people that just kept helping me, trying different things, pulling different wires, trying different stuff. Kendall was right there, and I never saw him. No matches.
He was loving it. He's so good at MacGyvering and fixing things, and he is currently still a factory HRC mechanic.
Yeah.
So
that's cool. I mean, he's the last guy to work on my factory KTM rally bike. I did work on it. I did a service on it the other day because I knew we're going to go ride. But it has the big Kendall Norman sticker on it. It has a DCC sticker on it because I got it from Mojave Bob, and Mojave Bob had the Dave Chase sticker on it. And then Kendall's now worked on it. So some really good factory Honda mechanical kind of people have touched my rigs. So good times. So I got a question, Johnny. This is Jason from YouTube who asked, can you explain mapping to me? So he was watching, I think our JD Jetting tuner video, or maybe we were talking about on one of the things. I don't remember what video it was. So what is mapping?
So, when you have a carburetor, you're obviously changing the jets. And so what you're changing is how the air and the fuel ratio mixes and goes into the intake tract, into the combustion chamber. And so with mapping, you're talking about a fuel injected bike that is controlled by what they call an ECU, which is like a computer. And so when you map, you can on some models, some bikes, you have some tooling, like say the CRF RXs and the Rs, the competition bikes. You're able to adjust those mappings for different conditions. And so you're adjusting the fuel-air ratio at different throttle positions and different RPMs.
And so it's gone. Mapping is gone from being an analog thing where it was mapping and jetting would be kind of synonymous. But when we talk about mapping, we also can include ignition. So and the reason it's called a map is essentially at every RPM and at every throttle position. And you look at it as a chart, and they're actually 3-dimensional when you think about it. And then now there's even maybe other dimensions, but so it's for every position of throttle, every RPM. There is a certain pulse width of fuel, and there's a certain timing aspect of the spark. And that's what the map really looks like. And if you look at it on some of the software, you can see a chart that shows it's either just raw numbers, and then there's many layers to it, or it looks like a 3-dimensional, almost like a topographic map.
Yeah, it's almost like a topographic map, and it's really interesting how you can see it. And the thing about mapping is where we used to only have these certain analog parameters for tuning the bike that way. Now it's almost infinite.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's as you've seen as it's getting better, is a lot of times now they have, you have sniffers in the exhaust, or, you can do things where instead of having like, a 9x9 grid, it goes 16 by 14, and now it's 100 by 100. It's like every 1%, every.
Yeah, it's really funny. I mean, interesting that the bikes nowadays run so much better than the old bikes. Like if you go back and ride a carbureted bike from 15 years ago, you're like, oh my gosh, what? We thought this was good.
Somebody was asking me today. They said actually it was a Spencer Bloomer who I actually saw here. He said my dream bike is a fuel injected KTM 2-stroke. How are they? Or a fuel injected 2-stroke. He's like, how are they? And I go, and this is the best way I can explain it, is like when you go back and you think about like what carbureted 4-strokes were. How horrible they were. It's not that they didn't make power, but this is the same thing with 2-strokes. It's like anytime on a carbureted bike, anytime you turn the throttle, and this is why they get called smooth, or they feel like they don't have the power. Anytime you turn the throttle, there's this little slight bog. Uh-oh, who just did? There's somebody's phone's on. You're here, Janie. Sometimes there's a slight little bog. It's a little bit of a hesitation that actually acts sort of like a little bit of a hit or a pop of power. And with fuel injection, essentially that's gone because it's like perfect. And so a lot of people they when they whack the throttle and it waits that half a second, quarter of a second before it really responds. They equate that to being hit, where fuel injected bikes don't do that. And if you want it, you can still do it by turning the throttle farther or snapping the clutch, but you can get away with so much more with fuel injection.
Yeah, and you can tune, and what you're saying is you can tune the map too to make a hit feeling.
Yeah, you can enrich in it, or you can change the ignition timing to make it a little bit more aggressive, or maybe a little when it feels what they call a throttle transient. So here's where the other dimension comes in. When the map notices you went from 25% throttle to 100% throttle, it dumps extra fuel in there. It has to keep the bike running, kind of like the pumper on the carburetor, which was that was the evolution in 4-strokes, was the use of the pumper carburetor is what really brought the 4-stroke back to life, I felt. For sure motors were getting lighter and more compact, but once you put a pumper carb in there, you got throttle response.
Yeah,
it wasn't an XR600.
Yeah, it felt a lot more instant.
So Jason, that's what mapping is. It's essentially the numbers that tell the fuel injector and the ignition what to do. And so when we talk about adjusting it or tuning it, and like Johnny said, a lot of these bikes have software that's stock. Yamaha has an awesome system. Honda has a little more. Actually, they're going to. They're right now. You have the HRC tool, right?
Yep.
And because I heard something from Athena guys that they're working on some stuff too, because the Athena Get stuff is kind of where the Yamaha thing comes from.
Yeah, they have a Get app, the HRC licensed Get to do one, which was actually pretty nice because it was Wi-Fi and stuff. But lately I haven't been able to use it, so I don't know what's going on with their program.
Yeah. So
they're working on it.
There's all different kinds. And then when you start going to these accessory ECUs and stuff, a lot of time they have that ability. You can program them with the computer. There's tuners that your map actually says stock in your ECU, and they call piggyback tuners, and they interrupt the signal that goes from the ECU to the fuel injector, and then you can tune it that way. I've seen that tried with ignitions also, but not very successfully. It usually ends up causing problems. But there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with that. But that's what mapping is. So, that was you, Ricky? You got to volume off, man.
It is off. I don't know how that happened.
Yeah. He's novice. So Al doesn't have any of that technology.
He doesn't make any noise.
I'm trying to get him to ride with his phone, so in case something goes wrong, at least he can call us. He needs a tracker. Al needs it because he rides. He's like all of us out here in Pahrump. Nobody wants to hang out with us, so we go ride by ourselves. So I got a question from Rockbreaker He wants to know about the KTM 390. He says, I miss those horsepower and torque numbers. Can you post them up? And you know why you missed them? Because I didn't give them out. Because I didn't put it on a dyno, and I didn't actually. I don't think I actually quoted what my butt dyno told me. What do you think a KTM 390 Adventure puts out, Johnny? Horsepower.
I'm just gonna
rear wheel.
I'm just gonna guess at the rear wheel.
You've never
ridden
one.
39 horsepower.
I'll bet you're really close. I bet you that's really close. My butt dyno, because my butt dyno is actually, nobody wants to run anything on my butt dyno because it said a KTM Husky 501 was only like 35. That's what it said. I said, and that was a little low, but everything's a little low. So I was going to go on this one. I was going to go 33 is what it feels like. But and then torque, I don't know. Torque is. The bike goes pretty good when it torques along, so it's got good torque. But if you want to see those numbers, I'm sure you can go to many other guys who will rattle off the figure, the spec sheet figure, and then there's some editorial outlets that still stick things on dynos because, like, they're so important to know the horsepower. Because usually wherever you're riding a bike, Johnny, I've found this true, wherever you're riding the bike, if you want more horsepower, you just have to do one thing.
Yeah, just open the throttle.
Open the throttle. It's free.
It's free.
It's free. It's free. That's the best. I could save you so much money because whatever horsepower figure you're getting on your bike right now, open the throttle more. And if you're wide open, then just make sure you're at peak RPM. And then if that doesn't work, then shift again. That works every time. No?
Every time. The butt dyno doesn't lie.
No. So, okay. Hey, this is a question on the this is a long question. This is a good question. Actually, I told the guy he should be watching. It's Tokyo Tim Tech on the CRF250 Rally. Hey, guys, if you want my opinion, I have probably the most modified rally on the planet. I have spent $6,300 in upgrades so far, not including the bike. I know I'm going to get comments on why would I put so much into a cheap bike, and the answer is I just like the bike, and I want it to be the best it can be. I wish it came in a 350 or 450, but I still love it, and I'll give you my thoughts. Did you get that? You should tell Jason that he wanted a 350 or a 450, one of those. There's no way that Jason actually knows that. I used to live with Jason, by the way, for a long time. I grew up racing Jason.
Racing Jason.
I should tell you a story about the one time he had a YZ125, and he put a new piston in it, and we were going to race at Indian Dunes. And he started the bike up and let it idle on the trailer most of the way there.
Oh, to break it in?
To break it in.
That's awesome.
Okay, so his point number one is price. I bought it brand new for $4,000 from the dealer. Amazing price to get you into adventure riding for a brand new bike. Mine was 2 years old, so the dealer needed to get rid of it. Those are the best deals. That is true. So number two is parts. This is a global bike, so parts are easy to get and dirt cheap if you break something. A huge plus for your first bike that you may be crashing a lot.
I guess if you're riding globally.
Globally. I think you should take a riding school so you don't crash. Right, Janie?
What?
Take a riding school so you don't crash?
Does that help?
Yeah, it helps a lot. I'm saying that because I run this little operation. When I'm not non-essential, that Jimmy Lewis off-road training.
Wait.
We make lipstick. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Where's right here.
I took it like 25 years ago, and I don't know, it worked for me.
It's way better now.
But he just cracked ribs.
I know. I was showing off. I tell people not to do that.
Where were you in 2007 when I needed you?
I usually tell people right before they're going to get hurt that they're going to get hurt, and I told myself I was doing something stupid and I didn't stop. So, yeah, 100% track record with that. He says weight. At 350 pounds, this is a light bike for adventure riders to get started with before they upgrade to maybe a Tenere 700 or a KTM 790. No, it's not a light enduro bike like a 250 XE, but it isn't marketed such, and it doesn't give up too much power. It doesn't give too much power to get new riders into trouble. So I think that 350 is that bike's actually what 380, right, Gabe? 390. So he's quoting the spec sheet because they put helium in the tires. So It's definitely a light adventure bike. It's a small displacement adventure bike. So yeah, it's doing good. With all that being said, you don't have to spend as much as I did in upgrades, but I will tell you what you absolutely must upgrade on this bike. Okay, you better. Is Jason watching?
I hope so.
Yeah, no.
You better be following.
Yeah, you're
come on, come on, Ingersoll.
Let's see. Get a 13 tooth up front. So that's to gear it down a little bit. Get the full FMF exhaust and an EJK tuner. So he's opening it up and putting more fuel in, which is good because most people just cut the muffler off and think it makes more power, which is not the right way to do it. Get a full Race Tech suspension if you're over 150 pounds. So Logan doesn't have to do that. Change out the terrible stock tires for D606 as well as with every bike, get a seat concept seat for comfort. Who laughed? Okay. There's way better tires. Okay. I like Kenda's. I changed the bars immediately and put on the bark busters as well because those things are less important. The nice thing is you can buy the bike new and upgrade it as you get money, and you don't have to do it all at once. I built mine up over the course of 1 full year and have nothing left to put on it. I will be making a video of it soon. Thanks for reading. And someplace or another, he said he wanted us to ride it. I don't know why that. It might be in the next line that I cut off or something like that.
He wants a DBT test on
it. He wants Johnny Campbell to ride his bike. That'd be the best. That'd be the best modification you could put on there.
I'll ride that thing.
Yeah.
I've ridden plenty of 250Ls. I like them too.
Doesn't Faye have one?
We've ridden them. We've ridden a lot of them in adventure rides and stuff, and we've had a really good time on them. And they're great bikes, especially the economics of it. You know, being able to go into a dealer and get it for that much.
I like the KTM 390 better.
So, yeah. Well,
there's tests of both of those bikes up on our website, and we'll probably try to do some sort of a comparison or something soon. But it's funny because there is a big displacement difference between those two things, those two bikes, and
but they're both entry level.
They're both entry level adventure bikes, and the price is almost identical. I think the KTM, they came in like $100 cheaper. I think they saw where the target was.
It's a battle.
Quinn, you're old, another old guy. The recluse clutch question. Scott Lee asks, thanks for the explanation, Jimmy. I ordered the CX DDS, so that's the recluse CX DDS for my ride. I wondered which springs would be best for trail riding. I heard the CX comes stock with heavy wedges, but I don't know. I did email Recluse about the wedges, so we'll see. Well, I will tell you, generally Recluse tech support is really good and gets you good, solid answers on stuff. I don't know which bike, what your ride is, so I don't particularly know, nor would I really remember. But for trail riding, say what's the best for trail riding? In that video, I kind of explain what each thing does, like what the springs do to the feel of the clutch, what the wedges do to the feel of the clutch, and it's depending on what you want. I mean, the way I set mine up, I set them up so they engage really low, and so the bike almost drags. When you put it in gear, if you don't have your hand on the clutch, the bike will actually creep a little bit because I don't want that clutch kind of disengaging, but I also don't want my bike to stall. And that's a really fine line, and it's dependent on things like idle speed and all different other things. But it's like anything on the bike, it's all adjustable, and if you know what one thing does, then you can tune it in that direction if that's what you want. Some people like a higher stall speed, maybe a little more RPM. It gives the bike a little more peppy feeling. Sometimes, with my setup, the bikes feel boggy and lazy, which some people don't like. So I don't think my setup's for everybody. You don't like my Recluses, do you?
I don't have really any comment. I haven't ridden them very much. I haven't ridden that brand. And
what kind of clutch do you use?
We use Hinson in our race bikes and stuff. But I know the application is different for different things you're doing with a bike. So
yeah, it's I rode a Hinson auto clutch once. It was really good. It was something they were messing around or testing or playing with or.
No comment.
No comment. So it's not. I never saw what was inside of it. So who knows how they were doing it, but it was good. I think they were developed a little more for moto because it, like, at the time, I think, and it was a little while back where the feel at the lever wasn't good during wide open shifts and stuff on a Recluse, and they knew I had experience with it. They're like, hey, try this. And
yeah, we actually messed around with it with Haker when Haker was riding Enduro Cross with us, and we transferred it over to GNCC when we went back east, and I believe our XC1 win with Chris Bach, he was using that clutch actually.
Yeah, it's all tunable. I mean, even like I said, suspension clickers and even your standard clutch, you can change the feel of it, like lever ratio pull if you have that, or with hydraulic, you can change the diameter of the master cylinders, and riders are really picky about this stuff. It's funny when someone looks at a factory bike, and Johnny can definitely comment on this. You look at the factory bike, you see all the trick coatings and work suspension and all this stuff, and it's like, when you really know what makes that thing works, it's the little things like slave cylinder diameter on your brakes, or diameter of brakes, or flex characteristics of this, or that all that work suspension. If it doesn't come with that team of technicians and tuners, it's
not really good for the general public, for sure.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it looks.
One reason it's
cool.
called Works is because you have to work on it.
Works on it. Yeah. So thanks, Scott. Thanks for that question. Here we go. Jeff Nyquist says on our KTM 390 video, he says, "Hold the applause, folks." I don't know if you remember last week, everybody was telling us how awesome that video was. So, yes, compared to most motorcycle reviews, are you watching motorcycle.com? No, I'm not. But anyways, this is very well done. However, there is a huge omission. KTM has had many problems with this engine. My concern is that if KTM has sorted things out with this bike and whether the word reliable applies, a review is not in-depth or even relevant with that kind of omission, particular with a 390. So I did a little bit of research, not a ton, but so when they first released some of the 390s in whatever forms they released them in, there was a problem with some head gaskets and stuff like that. Not that uncommon with new models, to have some sort of a new problem, especially when you're releasing that many of them. And kind of like how I always talk about how every KTM fuel injected two-stroke will blow up no matter what you do. If you ever even it actually blows up before you even start the bike. I don't know if you knew that, but if you watch the internet, that's what happens. So this was kind of what happened. I'm sure, a small portion of people did it, and then everybody grabbed that post and reposted on their thing, and then all of a sudden somebody found a picture of one that got hit by a car and the cylinders broke off, but then they said the engine just blew up. And you know how it goes. So I was, when I commented on that thing, I said I expected and suspected that this bike would be very reliable. I didn't say it is very reliable. I just said my past history with KTM's, my Husaberg not included right now. Everything is but it got me back to the truck like 2 times, right?
I made you go back to the truck.
I know you guys want to go riding without me. I know how it is. Jimmy was going to start being mean. We'd done loop 1. That was only the warm up.
Yeah.
So my experience with their products, with almost every manufacturer's products for the most part, is the stuff is generally pretty reliable. And if you do have something where there's problems like that, they, if it is a real problem, they tend to address it. But I don't think that a bike that's been around for a few years, an engine that's been around for a few years, is going to continue to have those kinds of problems. And it seems like it was sorted out very quickly after the first batch. And so, and I kind of stand by what I said. I said I suspect that it'll be very reliable. So, Jeff, when these things all start blowing up, please write me back and remind me that I was wrong. So, or just send me the video of the one that's all blown up, or the picture of it's all blown up, so I can post it and eat my own words. I'll actually put it on the screen behind me for the whole show. That's how confident I am in what I said, that I think they're going to be pretty reliable. So, I'll tell you what, if anything's going to be a problem on that bike, it will be the clutch. And because it's a cable clutch, and Johnny will help me out with this because we've had bikes. Remember how Bruce used to set up the old clutch on the XR650?
Yeah, we used to have to put a lot of play in the lever, and we had a lot of torque, and the clutch was definitely suspect.
So if you feathered the clutch, if you use the clutch a lot, you could get it hot, and when it expands, it would tighten the lever. Here's your tech tip of the night. So if you have a cable clutch, and when it gets hot, the play goes away. So in other words, it heats up, and the play goes away at the lever. Man, you've got to make sure that you're very sensitive to that if you don't run a lot of play, or run a lot of play if you're hard on clutches, so that you don't smoke your clutch. Because what happens is the clutch gets hot, and slowly it starts slipping, and it slips a little bit more. And as it gets hot, it slips more because it's basically holding itself. It's like you're pulling the clutch in a little bit the whole time you're riding. And we had a couple people hop on the bike that were inexperienced, and so just in takeoffs, starting and stopping, they would slip the clutch for a long time. They wouldn't trust the torque of the motor. They were maybe used to riding something like a Harley that has a lot of torque that goes boom, 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 boom. And the person that rides the Harley is probably answering messages on the phone right now. So they'd rev it a little bit, and they'd slip it, and it got hot, and we had it. We didn't have a lot of play in the cable when we did it, so a couple times we got the clutch a little bit hot by kind of torturing it. So I would suspect that would, especially in the adventure application where people start taking it off road and maybe riding it in the sand or in mud,
or loading it up with gear or something too.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's much that. It's so. Anyways, when bikes with cable clutches start getting hot and it tightens up. Some of them get loose. There's certain bikes that the cable gets loose, and that's better because that way you don't fry it as much. Usually that's a push clutch as opposed to a pull clutch. So check in on that one after a little while. But we used to just run extra play on our XR650. I never touched the damn clutch. I don't know why you needed to.
Yeah, you didn't on that bike, really.
And I always jokingly ask how people fry their clutches in the sand, because. You ever think about this, Johnny? Your tire's already spinning.
Yeah.
Why do you slip the clutch?
They're just slipping it too much, and it just heats up, and that's it.
Yeah. Ricky, do you use your clutch in the sand? Where'd he go? He's over there. Nope.
Not that much.
Not that much. Huh? You don't go through clutches.
Yeah, he's really good, especially with...
He rides in the sand more than anybody.
Yeah. The performance of that bike that he rides,
doesn't need clutch.
Yeah.
Schalk van der Westenhuizen.
There you go.
Says, I cannot decide between this, which is the KTM 390, or the Versus 300. I like the wheels on the Versus a lot more. I don't know. I think you should go with what you like, right, Johnny? That's what we always say.
Well, the 300, what's the 300 thing?
The Versus, it's a Kawasaki.
Oh.
So imagine, I'm going to give away a punchline here pretty soon. Imagine if, like the KTM 390 kind of looks a little bit like a Versus. It's like the style, that's that kind of current styling and stuff like that. But, well, you're only getting a 300. You want a 390, dude. So, Rowan Rogers says, fantastic review. Thank you. You really nailed all the important topics. Yeah, take that, Jeff Nyquist. Yeah. The bike clearly needs spoked wheels, but otherwise it looks like a great value for the money. I think I agree with you on the spoked wheels. I totally do. I don't know. Like I said, I think last week I said I suspect that when you see the next evolution of this bike in a few years, it'll probably be a little more adventure-y, a little more spoked wheels. Maybe it's unique frame. Maybe some of the technology stuff will get unlocked in that computer. So, another thing, a follow-up from last week's show is Chris Real gave us some good information on gas, and he just wanted to let everybody know that basically, that information, it's impossible to get a date on when this, because some people asked him, what's the date the gas is going to change? So they're going to plan for it. It's like, you just don't know. I mean, that winter blend fuel is there until it's, it's in pipelines and it's in gas tanks, and until it gets used up, it's not going anyplace. It's funny because it got me thinking. All my bikes for the rental bikes all have that gas in them, and we would have been running schools right now, which we're not. And that gas, I don't want it in the bikes during the summer. So, Gabe, you hear that? There's a job. We're gonna have to ride those things off or drain them out or get some but we don't have anything better to put in them right now. We can put the additive in there. So, but I think just kind of being aware that gas is there and paying attention to it. But he's also he just wanted motorcycles to be aware of that the winter blend fuel will be around for a lot longer, and so when you experience these, gas boiling in your tank a little bit more than usual, just kind of be understanding. And do we ask him whether additives? Did we ask additive? He said additives would not help that. I'm not sure, I think that's what he said. So you have to listen to show number 56 to get that answer. I'm sure the information's in there, which is kind of hard to do right now because it's not up on YouTube because Gabe and I both flaked out on getting it up there since the aliens were busy with him stealing his money. I'm sure. Okay. TJ Garage says, when you going to be putting up new episodes on Spotify? Gabe just threw his arms up in the air. Yeah. It's on me, isn't it? I haven't done the voiceover stuff, right? Pretty much. Yeah. It's on me. I actually answered him. I said, well, I'm doing it at the pace that I'm getting paid.
Yeah. And aren't you unemployed?
I'm unemployed.
There you go.
If this is a you know what they call this, what I'm doing now, a fun. You know why it's a fun?
Because you're doing it for free.
Right, because you get paid when it's a job. Yeah, I'm funning right now. Funny. It's kind of like working, but without getting paid. Yeah, you didn't know that. Yeah.
We've had a lot of fun over the years.
Yeah,
funning.
We're funning. We were getting paid though, back in the old day.
That is true.
Chris Real is there. He'll probably answer. He'll probably correct that question if I jacked it up in the message board, and then I'll relay it to you verbally. Is it just me, or is Johnny gone SoCal flat build behind my back? Well, you always had secret flat bill.
Yeah, it's just part of the DNA. It's San Clemente.
San Clemente thing? Well, but you're over the hill now. You're getting even closer. What's color are your socks?
Oh, they're
black socks. Black socks. You know who wanted to know that? Your boy Bernardo. Yeah, Jerry B.
Hey, Jerry.
Good to see everybody out there. Lipstick. Everybody wants to know how to get the Jimmy Lewis Off-Road School lipstick. You have to join the class. Yeah, you have to come and do the class.
Or you can do a giveaway.
Let's see. Go attend the riding school with the 606s and you will crash. I don't necessarily think so. The 606 is not a bad tire. I was actually talking to someone from another manufacturer who's inquiring about adventure bike tires. Just what, knobbies, different things. And I was contacted as an expert on it. And the 606 908 combo was one that I mentioned. That's more on the aggressive side.
Yeah.
For not exactly 50-50, but it's a good tire. Those are great tires in the XR 600 and 650 actually.
Yeah. That front one 606 when
it was what was it? It was a K. It was a factory tire.
When it was a factory tire, it was called a
942 or something.
902.
902. Yeah.
902. And we did a lot of development in the early 90s on that tire, and we raced it a lot.
Oh, it was a horrible tire. I mean, like as far as like traction, especially on smaller bikes. But if you ever had to do 40 miles on a flat, it was the best tire.
Yeah,
ever. Pre-moose and stuff.
Yeah.
But no, it was on a heavy bike. Like when you're running I always thought it worked better when we were pre-running that, because we were running the 5-gallon tanks than on the race bike. It was always a little bit kind of skatey.
Yeah.
But it was just, that was the price you paid to have tire durability.
Yeah.
Ability to run flat when you need to, and then decent or average performance. And when these adventure bikes and more long distance bikes started coming around, that tire like magically just fit into working good on those. Eduardo Rojas wants to know, ask Johnny about the chassis holes on Honda CRS for adding comfort to the chassis.
I suspect he's probably seen some of the modifications that people have done to the cylinder head stay, which you've seen, some people poke holes in them and stuff. And, you can get definitely a different feel out of the chassis when you start modifying those things, because it's actually very sensitive. The alloy chassis are very sensitive to change. I mean, the torque setting on the engine bolts and, so you need to be really careful about modifying those head hangers. I know there's some companies out there that are making some billet ones with big old holes in them and stuff. But, when we're doing the development on the bikes, a lot of work goes into making those things for a certain reason, a certain handling, where it's stability and cornering and light feeling, heavy feeling, traction. So, I'd just be really hesitant to be poking holes and things when,
Well, you really drill it.
Yeah.
And what on the RX, remember we played around on the first year RX because you were kind of coaching me along, and I ended up drilling too much. Yeah. I went, but what was it, like 3 millimeter hole? Or,
yeah. I mean,
that year, what was it?
You could, like, there was no hole, but but if you put a 3 millimeter hole, you could get a little bit of bump impact feel, like a lighter feel out of the bike. But what happens is the bike starts being like heavy to steer and heavy to lean over. And so you may get a little bit of straight line stability, but then you're going to affect your cornering and wheel traction.
Yeah, it's funny because I ended up thinking I went to 5 or 6. Eventually, I kind of just I kept going, and I actually got the bike to turn better when it went like that. It felt like it started turning better, but it lost the stability that it gained by.
Yeah, if you go pound through a bunch of whoops or sand whoops or something, the chassis might get a little wallowy.
Yeah, it was more like a chop. Like on the chop, and the way there was a point where it stock you could just hammer into stuff, but it jarred you, and then small hole. It was good. It was like the jarring kind of went away and it just felt better. And then turning still stayed. And then I actually thought the turning got better, but then like you said, it kind of got wallowy in those.
Yeah, if you increase the hole size, then the thing, man, it can really upset your bike. So
yeah. And I totally, and it's again, that's like we talked about turning suspension clickers and tuning your clutch. It's a feel, and you might like a bike that feels that wallowy or whatever. And some of these companies that are making these hanger brackets and different things now, they're pretty. And they've reached out to me a couple times, like, hey, you want to test this? And I wanted to test them on bikes they didn't make them for. And then when they had them for bikes that I made for them, I go, so what is it like? What does it do? Which direction are you going? And there was never. Then it just crickets.
Yeah, for me, I see those things and I just cringe. Yeah. Because I'm like, I know how sensitive the chassis are to changing that big of component. And so, yeah, I'm really, really hesitant to recommend any type of modification with those.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the opposite. I say modify the heck out of it. Try it. Try it, but make sure you have a stock set laying around to bolt back on there. And I mean, it's not like the bike's gonna break something, but because I've had some really good success on bikes that I struggled with. I remember back in the day there was a Kawasaki KX450 that we did some changes, and I've always struggled with that bike. Loved the motor, hated the way that the bike turned, and we changed some brackets on it, and it was super awesome. And it was a big change. It was like 2 millimeters of thickness difference in the brackets, and Yamaha's always been playing around and going between aluminum and steel. You see even KTM on their chassis, which is a steel chassis, playing around with some of the bikes have aluminum head stays on them. Some of them go to steel. Some of them have big holes. So it is tunable. And I like, Johnny coming from the development side, and he knows what they like to feel and how they're supposed to work. And so it was that's hopefully that answered your question there. Where did the question go? It disappeared on my on my thing. We're getting a lot We're getting a lot of questions.
Awesome.
Let's see. I want to say thank you, Carrie, for the Ragosa. She exported this from. Remember when she got this for us? Yeah. This is the Ragosa. It's one of my favorites, actually. This is a Reposado. She brought it back up from Cabo, and I think you can get. Oh, one broke. That was the other one. The trumpet bottle. So cheers. Thank you for that. We're having a Ragosa tonight, and I have some of my Valentine's Day tequila we'll hit in here in a few seconds if we run out. Let's see. Auto clutch and trials tire. Yeah, I was that guy. Victor really what broke on the Husa last week? Yeah, just oil and we're gonna save that for later. Let's see. YZ250 2-stroke forever. I think is that what he's saying? Yeah, he didn't. Mitch, you didn't finish your. Mitch Orb didn't. OGB. OGB. Oh, Mitch OGB. OGB. Didn't finish your sentence or your name, obviously.
You're cut off.
Randy Fish says, shout out to Brett Leaf. He had open heart surgery today for a clogged artery and was successful outcome. Good. Oh. I like Brett. Brett was one sharp suspension tuner. Really, really good. Let's see. Is the Versus a step through like the Vespa so you can wear a skirt? Oh boy, George is drinking tequila too, I'm sure. No, the Versus is not a step through. I wonder if Kawasaki would get us a Versus. It's kinda,
but you can still wear a skirt.
You can still wear a skirt. Yeah, or a kilt. Let's see, Eduardo Rojas. That's who answered the question. And now you guys are talking about shaving your legs. This form is going like the show is just going downhill.
Going downhill.
Yeah. Well, hey, don't worry. We only got a few more minutes if we have to because we're going to go riding tomorrow, so we want to get a good night's sleep. Spencer Bloomer's on. I actually talked to Spencer today. It's been a little while.
Hey, Spencer.
Spencer was my roommate back in the old days. He used to work at a company called Wide Open Racing for I'm so bad with names. He was a factory mechanic for a long time. You want some of this? This is it. This is the end of it. Yeah, you can finish that off. I haven't had mine yet. He said, he has a funny Jimmy story, and I didn't read this, but I'm going to go ahead and read this. I'm going to go ahead and read this just because I'll just read it verbatim because I could get in trouble, but who knows? Funny Jimmy story. Back in the early 90s when I rented a room from him, see, here we go. I came home from work on Friday evening, and Jimmy was frantically going through the garage looking for plastic jugs to carry gas. He said he needed to go 220 miles between gas stations, was leaving tonight for the weekend, and was going by himself through Death Valley. Stretching fuel by himself through Death Valley. Yep, that's yeah, Spencer. That's a true story. Yeah, he used to do that a lot. It was hard to get big gas tanks, but I remember. I think that was the time that I rode and met Hubert Oriol.
Oh, really?
He was going to be at the start of some desert race, some car race, because he was trying to get car teams to come over to Dakar back in the day, and I'm like, I'm going to go meet this guy. I'm going to ride out and meet this guy. And I rode all night and met him, and it worked. It was one of the key between him and Eric Pinard, and a few other people. It was I was managed to
you got to Dakar.
Get over there. I think Scott Harden at KTM helped out a little bit. There was a lot of people that pulled strings. I was at Cycle World magazine. I think my boss David Edwards was able to It's funny when you look back at all the hoops you jump through to do something.
Yeah, yeah. And Hubert is who Jimmy's talking about. Is he ran the Dakar race for a long time. He was a racer, and I remember probably some of the most incredible Dakar footage ever shot was when he came across the finish line with 2 broken ankles, and he's just cringing. But then later on in his career, when he stopped racing, he actually directed the Dakar.
Yeah, it seems like a thing they do because now David Castera, who kept me off the podium in whatever year it was, 1997, is now the race director over there. So it's good. It's good to have. It's funny because Husaberg like got it. As a race director, when you have a guy that used to be a racer, like when I have run-ins with promoters that weren't racers, I instantly realize I'm dealing with somebody that just doesn't.
They don't know. They don't understand.
They're sitting there the whole time just stroking their wallet. Right. And that wallet's going to make the decision that I'm about to, whatever. Yeah. That's the only thing. They don't actually think about like what happened on the course or what this guy went through or all that stuff. So I do appreciate it when I know that the guy that's in charge has some racing pedigree and background.
He was definitely one of the good ones.
Yeah, I remember when he landed his helicopter. I was on my BMW. We were like, God, Niger someplace. We were riding around the rim of a volcano, big rim of a volcano, and he had him land the helicopter in the middle of the course. I was opening the stage, by the way. This is old days, Ricky. Things weren't like not at your pace. So I'm opening the stage, I'm leading, I'm up in this volcano. They land the helicopter, and I think this might have been after we did the airlift. I don't know. It's hard to, what'd you say? My brain's not working very well. So, but he landed the helicopter. I'm like, oh, what are you doing? He's like, he gets out of the helicopter. He's like, Jimmy. And the guy's always super chill and relaxed.
Sure,
He's like, Jimmy, you need to stop and take in the view. And I'm like, what?
I'm leading the race.
I gotta go. I just like, he's like, you will never be here again. he's like, stop and look. He's like, everything else in life is not so important as what you think. And it was like, it was a full, back then I wanted to punch him. I'm like, why the hell did you land a helicopter? Because we're on it was like a single road on the rim of a volcano. You couldn't go off to the side. I couldn't go around it. They had to take the damn helicopter off. And of course, they took off, and they knew how the lead I had. They knew it wasn't going to affect it, that much or whatever. But it was probably, we had 20 or 30 seconds of interaction there, and then the helicopter flew away, and I was just I thought maybe it was funny because like initially you see the helicopter park, I thought, okay, something bad is happening, really bad's happening. They're neutralizing the race, or I'm so far lost that they're stopping me to tell me to go back. But I mean, I knew I didn't feel lost. I thought I was on it. Damn, you're on top of a volcano, or else you're going to do that out in the middle of the desert. So, what an interesting guy. Interesting story. So yeah, I used to do crazy shit, Spencer. Hey, it was good to talk to you today. Awesome. I got to get Spencer. Spencer used to go riding with me, and take the torture.
And did you know I rented that room after he left?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I forget all the people that went through that house. Spencer used to just what he didn't tell you about that story is like he comes home from work and sees me frantically in the garage. That would be like it would just be Spencer does everything super sano, always has the right tools. The kind of the opposite of me. Just I'm like hammer and chisel and whatever.
No way.
And Spencer just used to just like probably watch me as like Tasmanian devil in the garage and just go, oh God, why don't you do it right? I'm trying to get him. I want to get him to come back out here and rip some sand washes. He would understand. He was a KX500 guy. He used to take that KX500 in places you shouldn't take a KX500. In fact, actually Spencer built one of my first real good helmet cams. Like, cause Spencer's like a fab master, like your brother.
Yeah.
But now he does everything in SolidWorks. But he built this counterbalanced weighted helmet so he could slip a high 8 camera inside of it. I still have that helmet, Spencer. By the way, that thing is. But he used to go riding with me, and I got to dig out the riding videos. That one that we're up in the. That place where we ride at, and we're ripping through the KLX because he was working for Kawasaki at the time, and he had the KLX, like a brand new KLX 300. That was some pretty fun times, man. Good times. Okay.
So did you stop and look at the view?
About as much as it took about 3 seconds for me to look at the view at that point in my life. Yeah, I got on that bike. I'm like, I'm racing. There's nothing more important than winning at that time. So, somebody was asking me how I liked American Super Camp, which is Danny Walker's flat track school. I did that and it was super fun, and I highly recommend it. There's very few riding schools that I will recommend because I know how I know how many fake ones there are out there. is what I'm trying to say. I mean, you can get a raw deal at a riding school all day long, but American Super Camp is not one of those. Danny teaches. Have you ever been?
I've never been.
You got to go.
I've met him at dealer shows and stuff.
Yeah, well, I'll bring you an XR100 and then I'll smoke you on it on the TTR 125 that he
I still own one.
You have an XR100?
Oh, yeah.
I have your your and Jamie's bikes are still sitting on the side of my house. Those old things that you dropped off. They're still there. So corroded. It's so bad.
I should go pick up the one.
The CR.
The CR.
The CR.
That was my first CR.
Yeah. Well, it's still there. I was gonna do something with it beside the house.
What a piece of junk.
It's you should go do that. I recommend it to anybody, especially even if you're a high level guy and you don't do flat track, but you have a flat track style, from sliding turns and stuff like that. But when he starts telling you like you don't want to do it because it's not really like what you do on a knobby, because you just don't do it. But he starts doing this stuff and you pick it up quick, and then you want to go fast, and then you realize you're going slow because you're not doing what you're relying on bad habits as opposed to the technique. And his technique is super high level. It's really advanced. And I learned a ton. I had a blast doing it, and really, I mean, because I like learning. I like learning to teach, and I like learning. I really took it to heart, and I still practice. I still go. We have a flat track just next door, and I'd water it, but no, that's Logan's job, and he's not here.
Did he get abducted by aliens?
Logan is at his grandmother's birthday party, and where I told him his job was he has to read all of her letters to her birthday cards out loud to the whole group. That's his job. Kevin Omo says, what tires should I run on my 950 Adventure? 90% off-road. I love the Parker DT on the 450, but I haven't tried it on the 950 yet. Johnny, what tire?
We're talking a DOT tire?
We're talking a KTM 950, and he wants the 90% off-road best tire. What does Johnny Campbell say? What's the Maxxis?
Well, I have to say Maxxis, but I can't because Maxxis doesn't have a DOT tire.
Well,
DOT
it doesn't.
knobby.
Well, if he's 90% off road, well, yeah, okay. So if we're going down DOT Avenue, I would not run the Parker DT, and I'm a Kenda guy. Absolutely not on the 950 because that tire just does not have the sidewall and the knob stability for a bike that's that heavy. So I'm going to say. In that application, don't. I run pretty much exclusively on my adventure bikes. I run Kenda big blocks because I don't really ever push them past the capability of that tire because I don't want to die. But when I have run more aggressive front tires, I'm going to give you my two choices here. Dunlop 606 would be my second choice. But my first choice would be the Golden. Golden makes a tire, and I don't know the letters. It's like a 273 or a 9. It's not the fatty front that everybody's really high on, but there is a Golden tire that works incredible on that bike, and it's not that bad on the pavement. Is it a DOT tire? I'm not 100% sure, but I've never tried is one of the Maxxis like ITs or HTs on a.
I know I've ran like the Maxxis SI and strictly a off-road area with on the Africa Twin. Yeah. And it was amazing to go full knobby on that size of bike. It was like, oh wow. I could ride this thing.
Did it last? Because that which is the tire, which is the Maxxis tire that doesn't wear out?
The long lasting one is the Desert IT or the
Desert
IT. And yes, it will last a long time.
But you want it to wear out so you can take it off. That's not a slam, but I mean it's like the traction of that tire is compromised by how long it lasts.
It's correct.
Yeah.
And it has a deep knob pattern and everything. But like if I go ride to Cabo or a long ride, that's the tire I use because of the durability of it. And and it's good against flats and all that stuff. So the IT especially on the rear, is really good. I prefer the SI on the front for sure.
Yeah, have you ridden the Jeremy McGrath tires?
Yeah.
Are they're moto only tires?
For me, they're a moto or a track orientated tire where there's more of a groomed surface. I feel like they were obviously designed that way, where the SI gives you a lot more kind of gracefulness, like going from like a soft condition to a hard condition, and a mix of what you encounter off-road wise.
Yeah. I haven't. I like to try stuff. I haven't ridden those. So
yeah, you should try them on the track. And like, I feel like if I go to Glen Helen, I'll put that ST on the front, especially for the front wheel traction is really good. Yeah,
Spencer's commenting that his neck still hurts from that that helmet that he built. Let's see. Since you're talking about flat track, do you know what a Harley Twingle is? Yes, I do. It's where you get your you spark your instead of doing it like every other, you get them to fire kind of out of order, like kind of. I know what it is. Actually, it works better, and that's what the Tenere, the Yamaha Tenere, the 1200 kind of fires, and I believe fires in that kind of weird order. I may be mistaken. I know, like, actually, was it like, yeah, I think, but it makes bikes vibrate too when they fire weird.
Yeah, I would assume so.
Yeah. So, Danny Walker says, "Thank you for the kind words, Jimmy Lewis. You're the epitome of a champion and that never stops learning." Thank you, Danny. I next time I'm coming to the class, I'm going to do it like what all racers do. I'm just going to go straight for your ankles, buddy. I'm done learning. I'm going fast. Now that's the way it works. Yeah. And George says, Danny, when are you coming out to a Jimmy Lewis off-road training? I don't want him in my class because I don't want anybody to take my ankles off or ask me if I'm good at nose wheelies.
But you might want to check out your flat track.
Flat track. Oh yeah. I know the dirt there. So it's really good. Hey, so that I think we got most of the questions from the board. George, let me know if I missed anything. I just tried. Craig wants to know, now that you are funning, you can have alcohol sponsors. Craig, please explain to me the rules for alcohol advertising, because I need to dig into some coffer someplace. It's like, what advertisement is that worth? San Felipe Bob mentioned he stored the TTR 125 for 9 months, left the gas petcock on per Jimmy Lewis's recommendation. It fired up and ran great. Did we put fuel additive in that? Like I've been running that Tektron Power Sport stuff. You can go ahead and hold that up if you want. They sent some out here for me to evaluate, and it's been really good. They should sponsor the show, right, Johnny?
We need sponsors.
Yeah, we all need sponsors. That's how us racers have made livings, I guess, being kind of sponsored and representing companies. And I'm lucky that most of the companies I rode for have been really good. I mean, they've definitely switched around a little bit and tried different things. But it makes you more experienced. But it's funny because when you wonder, like, like how effective is sponsorship? And that's what people always say. But hopefully we're doing a little bit here, doing our part. Johnny, you have anything else to?
Yeah, I think kind of in light of today's activities, we heard Marty Smith and his wife passed away, and just wanted to really give our condolences to their family and friends. And Marty was an inspiration to all of us, growing up in the 70s and 80s and stuff, and watching him and how stylish he was, and in the moto world. And he was a super nice dude.
Yeah,
and
it's
epitome of an enthusiast too. Just loved to go out in the desert and ride. And he won Baja 1000 and did desert racing too.
I think I raced against him one of those years when he was on the Cowie team. And I always just remember because he's a little bit before my time. I mean, he was kind of getting out of it when I started like learning about motocross. He was kind of on his he was on his way out. But then I used to run into him at the tracks a lot of time. He was, coaching a lot of young riders, bringing a lot of young riders up. And like I said, ran into him a couple times down in Baja. And then even just last year or year before, Ricky and I ran into him. He was parked at the same place where we were rally training out at Glamis. He was out there with his sand car, and it's kind of funny because he probably knew what we were doing and stuff like that. He kind of came by and said hi a couple times, and I'm like, because I don't remember names and faces, and I'm like, I know that guy. I mean, he's always looked so young. He just did not look. Yeah, he did not look like an older guy like that. He
aged really well.
Yeah, so that's a shame. It's too early like for anything, but we all know, sometimes the stuff that we do is kind of crazy and dangerous. So, yeah. Let's see. I think. Ricky, do you want to answer any questions or anything? You're all good. You're ready to go. You're ready to go riding.
George is saying I was so slow at flat track that you actually ran over me.
Well, that's a fact, Ricky. By the way, Ricky was going so slow that I ran, and he was on a factory rally bike. I'm pretty sure at the time, and I couldn't get by him because that bike's so big. It took out, so I had to run over him. But he also tried to take my ankles out, kind of like everybody else does. So, hey everybody, thanks a lot for checking in with us. Hopefully, we made your Tuesday evening in this crazy time a little bit more enjoyable. We can be found generally. It seems like for the most part, we're sticking with this Facebook every Tuesday night live. You can find this podcast on iTunes. We're gonna Gabe as soon as I can go recycle my aluminum cans so I can pay Gabe. I've been eating cat food lately, Gabe. It's cheaper than most other things. So we'll get there. We'll get you back on the payroll, and we'll get some of these things updated on the iTunes. Get the shows 1 through 30 up there in a better form. We'll start, and then we're going to start with 55 and work our way forward, and then we'll all be caught up. Thanks for sitting in, Johnny.
It's always great to be here, and it's fun.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here because you're definitely better than George, because all that guy does is put me down. You didn't say anything mean about me.
I never put you down, Jimmy. You're my hero. You know that.
At least you let me win Baja 1000 once. I didn't really ever think I was going to do that because it kind of wasn't my thing. I don't know what it was, but it was like, man, it just sat in front of me. It's like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
So
it was fun. That was one of my highlights too. 1998 Baja 1000. Our bike was really good. It was basically a stock 600, XR 600, and
it was a perfect race.
It ripped, and it was a peninsula run. And it was super fun. So.
Yeah, that's the only I remember I told you that. I was like, I don't want to do the other ones. I'm only doing the peninsula.
And there were still enough hoops down there for you.
Yeah. So good to see all the guys in the chat room. And so for Johnny Campbell, Jimmy Lewis, Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. We will see you out on the trail. Cheers.